So we do have a lot of laws in place, but implementation of the laws and the local grassroots authorities, their reaction and their mentality also matters, right? So that also affects, especially in adoption cases too. We have a long way to go.
Absolutely. And I think of heterosexual couples who want to adopt, and I imagine more than the law in the process, for a lot of them, the bigger challenge would be convincing the families.
Yes, that's huge in India. Like you can convince yourself, but by the time you tell your parents, how we need that bloodline, hamara खून का whatever hona chahiye type of a mentality. So that's gonna take a while for that to go away.
So, hi, Tanya.
Hi, Prachi. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? It's so good to have you here finally.
Finally.
I first came across your video on rights of married women. I think that was the one that I stumbled upon.
Okay.
And I just fell in love with it. I just fell in love with how approachable and friendly you seemed. And how you broke down this topic that people are just so terrified of bringing up. How did you start doing these videos? How did that come about?
Yes. So I used to work with a corporate in this corporate sector before. I was a tax lawyer with PricewaterhouseCoopers, and then during my maternity, I took a break from work, and I haven't gone back to work since the pandemic and everything. So my work was mostly online. And I kind of noticed that there was this huge gap between like the laws in the country and the accessibility of those laws. Like especially women, they have zero accessibility to, unless you're really interested in the topic, and you probably would go research on it. But how many of us actually do that, right? So I wanted to start some platform where there's easy accessibility, and you watch a 30-second video and you get some information which I think is not currently there on Instagram with regards to law. So I thought this is going to be helpful for people and helpful for me too in return. So so that's the reason I started it.
And I think the other thing too is that when we think of lawyers, it's often quite intimidating, right?
Yes, it's kind of intimidating, and that is another point, that I wanted lawyers to be a little more approachable.
Yeah.
See, you mostly see a lawyer talking. It's like this boring rut thing. Somebody's talking for 40 minutes and giving you sections and jargon that probably you wouldn't understand, right? So, and people approach lawyers only when they are in some deep, deep trouble.
Yeah.
Like nobody really goes and talks to a lawyer just to find out something or get some information. So I wanted to change that concept, make us more friendly and approachable.
And you're doing a fab job. Like I love that you're keeping up with the trends, and you're surfing the trend wave to give out relevant information. That's amazing.
It's hard for someone who's not like 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
To actually do that, but I'm just trying my bit then.
Yeah, I know that you suggested we talk about adoption, and I had some other idea, and I thought it was interesting. It hadn't occurred to me to talk about adoption rights, but since our first chat, I have come across so many posts. Like just women on these different forums and groups asking about adoption and how do they go about it. And I never realized there was such a need for this.
Yes, and I think times are changing. I personally know a lot of young couples who've been adopting, not because they cannot have children, but because they feel the need to support and take care of a child who's been abandoned, because they feel that there are too many abandoned kids in this world, and why have your own kids when you have the option of adopting and giving someone a great life. After that video, I received so many DMs from young girls saying, can I adopt? I don't want to get married. I'm going to live in, can I adopt? Times are changing, especially in like urban cities, and I think we should keep up with the times.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with this. What is the law about single women, men adopting? If you're not married, if you're in a live-in relationship, what's the law?
Adoption is guided by two laws in India. One is the Hindu Adoption Act. So in India, everything is religious, right? So inheritance, adoptions, everything is guided by religion. But Hinduism is the only religion which actually allows for adoptions. Other religions just allow for guardianship. Okay, so we also have the Juvenile Justice Act, which allows for adoption. So now that's like a act which anyone can adopt under, a Christian or a Muslim. So can go under the Judicial Justice Act. And the whole adoption system is guided by CARA, okay, which is a central adoption agency. So they have these set rules and guidelines which help people and tell you what is the eligibility criteria, etc. So as per these guidelines and these acts all put together, if you're married, you have to have a solid relationship for 2 years, and then you can adopt. You can adopt if you are a single woman or a single man, and you can also adopt if you are in a live-in relationship. Okay. But you cannot adopt if you're a same-sex couple. There is a kind of loophole to this because you can adopt as a single woman or a single man. So you have the option of adopting as a single person and bringing up the kid together. But then you will not have legal rights as parents of the kid. But if you really want to take care of a kid, you have the option of adopting by yourself and then bringing the kid up with another person. And people who are most hit are the transgender community because they cannot adopt as a single person, they cannot adopt as a married person. If you look at the application for adoption, there's just male and female. And unless a transgender person identifies as a cis male or a cis female, they don't have the option of filing for an adoption. But if you're a woman, a divorcee, a widow, you can also adopt.
And you mentioned about religion, how a lot of adoption and just families in general are driven by religion. What about interfaith adoption?
That's why we have the Juvenile Adoption Act. Any interfaith couples, or if you just do not fit into the criteria given under the Hindu Adoption Act, then you can adopt under the Juvenile Justice Act. So there have been many cases where, Muslims or Christians have actually gone to court asking if the adoption can be legal because, their faith doesn't allow it. So the courts have held that under the Juvenile Justice Act, your adoption is also legal. So they have the option of going under that act.
And what about a Hindu couple or a Hindu single woman or man wanting to adopt a child from another religion, another faith?
So there is no bar against it. So when you adopt a child, you wouldn't know what the religion of the child is. You can give your choice on what is the sex of the child, what is the age limit, you can give a reference for the age, but you cannot give religion as an option. So you might get a kid from any religion, you should be ready for it.
Okay, so what's the process? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, so I'll just give you a general idea. So what happens is you, like I told you, CARA is the ones you need to go and approach. So you can either file an application online, okay, or there are these state authorized agencies, adoption agencies in every city or a district, and you can also approach them if you don't want to go the online route, and you make an application with them. So you have certain documents to be submitted and you make the application, and around a month after you make the application, they will send a social worker to your house to conduct a home study. So the main idea is to ensure that the couple or the person who's adopting is actually ready for it. Saying you're ready and being ready are two different things, right? So the social worker will actually ensure that this person or this couple is actually ready emotionally, financially, mentally, and also, the family, are they ready to accept the kid? So all this is considered, and a study is made by the social worker, and that study is submitted with the agency. This study is relevant for 3 years. Now the part comes where they start sending you photographs and study of the child that you want to adopt. So they send you information of 3 children. Now there's no time limit for this because it could be a month, it could be 6 months, it could be a year. It depends on your seniority in the application list. So they send you three children. You get to choose from them and decide whom you want to meet. And if you don't want to meet anyone, you can say you don't want to meet anyone out of that. And you get 3 chances like this.
So 9.
The agency, so 9 kids. So agency sends you pictures of kids 3 times to choose from. And after the third time, you still haven't made a choice, you've rejected all of them, then your application comes down right to the bottom. So you have to start all over from the start. But if you choose a kid from whichever options you've been given, then you get to spend time with the kid and meet the kid and see if you're comfortable with the kid. If you want to take it forward, what the adoption agency will do is they will reach out to a lawyer, draw up papers for your adoption and file a petition in the court for adoption. And meanwhile, once you presented the petition, you have the option of taking the child home. So that is called a pre-adoption foster care. Right. So this is the time when you get to spend with the kid in your house and see if it works out for you. So unfortunately, in India, there have been many cases, like almost like 200 out of 6,000 adoption cases in 1 year, where it's been a disruptive adoption. That means the kid could not adjust with the parents, or the parents could not adjust with the kid, and the kid was sent back.
That's quite a high rate.
Yeah. So this is possible only during the pre-adoption foster care stage.
How long does it last usually, the pre-adoption?
This is while the case is pending in the court. Yeah, so there is no specific time limit for that. Like, it depends on how long your case is pending in the court. That's the only time you have to decide whether you want to go ahead with this or not. Once the court finalizes your petition and passes an adoption order, you don't have the option of sending back the kid. But there have been cases where, the kid was adopted or information was given fraudulently to the parents. They can file a petition in the court for fraudulent adoption to cancel out the adoption, even after the adoption order has been granted. But that rarely happens.
So when, the social worker visit happens and they're making that case profile, the study, you said they're looking to see if the family, the parents are financially, emotionally ready.
Yes.
How much do they get into the lifestyle of the parents or the family?
I think it's given a lot of weightage because they try to find out if you're a single person who's adopting. Okay, let's take an example. The person works in a job which requires you to travel a lot. So who will take care of the child? So you need to give information on, do you have a guardian, or do you have some parent who will take care of the child? Who is this person? They look into all that. And yes, I mean, I don't think it matters, like, socially, what kind of a lifestyle you have. Like, do you go out and party? Do you drink? I don't think all that matters. But, basics when it comes to the child's needs, like who's going to take care of the child when you're away? If you're a working parent, both of you work, who will care for the child? Will you hire a nanny? Will you have a parent? And, in the Indian society, how it is that sometimes you're willing to be parents, but the grandparents may not be okay with it. So imagine you live in a house where you have the in-laws and the in-laws are against you adopting, but you have anyway decided to bring adopted child. But how will the child feel in that house? Will he be comfortable having two people in the house who are against him being in the house? So these are things that the social worker will try to find out in the study. Yeah. So I don't think lifestyle really matters. Of course, if you've been arrested for something in the past, or you've probably had some mental health issues which they feel might affect the child, so then such things are considered.
And chronic illnesses,
yes. One of the documents that they have to submit is a medical report from a medical practitioner stating that they don't have any life-threatening illness.
Usually, like, what are the common roadblocks that people face?
One is the society, the family, but that comes prior to, adoption, like you making up your mind that you want to adopt. And the second main thing is the availability of kids. So there's so many abandoned kids in India, Prachi, but you can't just pick up a kid from the street and say, I want to adopt this kid. It doesn't work that way. So that kid has to be legally free. So it's not like you're walking on the street and you see a baby abandoned and you pick the baby up and come home and say that, I want to adopt this kid. So for that process, that kid to be considered legally free, that no biological parents will come and ask for the kid, actually been abandoned, that itself is a long process. Although we have so many abandoned kids and orphans in India, the kids who are institutionalized and legally free are very little. So once you make your application, the wait process might be very long, which kind of discourages people from adopting. Also, the laws are quite strict and stringent, so that might discourage people from adopting. And also the fact that you don't have the choice to choose whom you want. And we in India as a society, we want like a perfect kid. You know how people are, right? So you may not get that perfect kid when you're adopting, and you should be ready for the fact that if a kid has been institutionalized, has spent 5 to 6 years in an institution or a juvenile system, that kid would have faced a lot of issues. So he's not going to come as he or she's not going to come as a clean slate, you know. He's going to come with a certain trauma in his life. That you need to be able to deal with. You need to be kind enough or open enough to accept all those flaws. Administratively, they have a very streamlined process. So that's not the issue. They will not find any roadblock there. But yes, these are the things, some of the things that they might face.
I want to go back to what we were discussing earlier. I feel like I want more clarity on that. You said that when you're filing the adoption papers, you can choose the preferred sex of the child. So what else? What are the other factors that you can tick off?
Coming to the sex, I missed out on a point here. So if you are a single woman, you can choose any sex. But if you're a single man, you can only adopt a boy. You cannot adopt a girl. So this is, I know, for many reasons like sexual harassment, child trafficking, you know, considering all the issues we have in the country, I think that law was made that a man cannot adopt a girl child. So other than that, yes, you can choose the sex. You can choose the age. What's the age limit like? Yes. But you cannot choose a newborn baby. A newborn baby is never given on adoption.
So
like
what's the minimum age?
So there's no minimum age as such. So like we discussed, I told you that the child has to be legally free, right? So you cannot, the child cannot be legally free as soon as a child is born. The agencies have to go through and they send out a notice in the papers with a photograph of the child, wait for a certain amount of time to see if the child is going to be like, if someone will come forth saying this is our child. It's a long process. And so until that happens, that kid will probably would have spent a couple of months or a year in the institution. So you cannot adopt a newborn child. I know there are a lot of hospitals or, you know, somebody who would probably say that, listen, I'll give you a newborn child. You cannot adopt one. So never fall for such money-making gimmicks that people have. So that is it. The sex, the age of the child. Yes, you can also choose the state. Like which state you want to apply to and which state you want to choose the child from. So that option is also there.
So what about international adoptions? Is it a similar process or that's like a whole different?
It is a similar process. And it is allowed in India, international adoptions. So the process is, since it's kind of similar, you will make an application with CARA, and then you have these certain agencies which have been identified and authorized by India internationally. So they will have to reach out to such an agency in their country or their city, wherever they reside, and make an application there. So in case such an agency is not available in your country, you can also reach out to the Indian embassy, the local Indian embassy there, and they will forward the papers. So what happens is the same process. The study report, the home study will be conducted in that particular country by that agency and forwarded to CARA in India. The documents will be submitted like how, particulars that we discussed already for Indians, similar kind of documents are submitted. So CARA will process all these papers and the kids are referred, the same process, 3 times the kids are referred. You get to choose whom you want to. I mean, given the distance, they may have a video conference or something in those lines for you to meet the children and speak to them and spend some time with them. And once you okay a child, CARA will process the legal papers like through the court. The court again has to pass an order stating that this adoption is okay. CARA has to give a non-objection certificate for the adoption. outside. Yeah. So there's a conformity certificate given. It's basically a certificate which says that all the rules and regulations in this country has been maintained and taken care of. And this adoption is in conformity with all those processes. And this kid can legally go outside the country. So then, the normal passport, visa, the documentation takes place and the kid is sent abroad. So then citizenship, everything, the parents, they take care of. So it's pretty much the same process, but you go through a different agency locally in your country.
What are the rights of the adopted child?
An adopted child will have all the legal rights, just like a biological child. So when it comes to inheritance, property, anything, any rights for that matter, just like a biological child would have the same rights. We discussed about this pre-adoption foster care time. So the kid has the right to, in case it's more than 5 years old and can give consent, the kid has a right to say that I'm not comfortable with these people. I don't want to stay with these people, and report back to the agency saying I don't want to be here. So that is one of the rights during the adoption process. But otherwise, like any other kid.
Okay. And what about rights of the child in terms of, say, looking for the birth parents or wanting to maintain some kind of a relationship?
Okay, so what happens is the birth details of the child is not given to the adoptive parents, right? Like when the adoption is made, none of the birth details are given, like which religion, what was the kid's background, who were the parents. Sometimes the adoptive agencies themselves do not know because these kids are abandoned. So no such information is given. But after the kid turns 18, he or she can approach the adoption agency and ask for details regarding the biological parents. So if the adoption agency has those details, they will definitely share it with.
Say the birth parents of the adopted child
come back and
yes.
So after the adoption order has been passed by the court, then the birth parents cannot come from anywhere and claim control over the child or claim that the child should be returned back to me. So once the adoption is done, it's done. Because, the court and the agencies have gone through the due process to actually ensure that the kid is legally free. So, they have advertised about the kid, they have found out everything they can, and nobody has come and claimed the kid. So afterwards, after the court passes an adoption order, you cannot come back.
Like there's a growing number of women who don't want to be biological moms. They are fertile, they are healthy, but they want to adopt, and there's a growing number of men who are okay with this. Like you said right at the beginning, more and more couples want to adopt instead of having their own biological child for whatever reason. So assuming that you are, or in the case that you are a fertile couple, perfectly healthy, perfectly capable of having your own biological child, do you have to give some sort of an explanation as to why you want to adopt? Okay.
No.
Okay.
I mean, they might ask you like, why do you want to adopt? But being a fertile couple doesn't bar you from adopting. So that's not one of the criteria at all.
I guess because it is a need in our country, right, to encourage adoption.
Yeah. So even if people are, so there is a bar in the sense if you have more than 3 kids. So, you're a couple who already have 3 kids, then you cannot adopt one more. So unless you are ready to take on a special needs kid, then you're allowed to adopt one more. Like you can have another kid, but otherwise you can't. So fertility is just not an issue at all. And the whole idea is to place more kids in adoption and give them homes. Criteria regarding same-sex couples and, transgender couples, that should also be taken away to ensure that, more and more kids actually find homes to stay in.
We spoke a little bit about relative adoption, wanting to adopt a relative. But over there, what is the process? Like, do you still have to go through the agency?
No, you don't have to go through the agency. So there are only certain relatives you can adopt from. That is your maternal, if you are a maternal aunt or uncle of the child, or a paternal aunt and uncle of the child, or you are a grandparent of the child.
Okay, like only within the immediate family.
Yes, you can't just adopt from anywhere. Okay.
Right.
One, you need the consent of the biological parents. Two, you need the consent of the child if the child is older than 5 years old. Okay. And three, you need to make an affidavit stating, your financial position, your medical conditions, your social status, like, I can take care of this kid and whatever the reason why you're adopting the kid. Along with all these documents, you file a petition in the court and request the court to pass an adoption order. So you don't have to go through the agency for this. You can do it by yourself by getting yourself a lawyer.
Can you adopt from a friend?
No, you can't.
You can't. Okay. Or like someone
known to you. No, you cannot.
No. Okay.
So another option, adoption is step adoption, which is, say for example, a couple are divorced and the child custody is with the mother alone. The mother remarries. So then the remarried husband, say the second husband, has the option to adopt that kid as his own.
Okay.
Only if the father, the biological father of the kid, agrees and gives his consent. So that adoption is called a step adoption.
So one of my questions was, what if the parents change their mind later? But you already answered that.
Yeah, so they cannot. I mean, it is difficult. It is difficult to accept a different kid and make him or her your own, right? So they really ensure that the parent is completely ready and such things wouldn't happen where, the situation comes where the parents are like, what, I can't take care of this kid anymore.
And are there any social worker visits or any kind of supervision after the adoption is done?
Yes. So after your final adoption is over, like you get the adoption order from the court, and then for 2 years, a social worker will make, I think, 2 visits in a year.
Okay.
So like 4 visits in total. And they'll just come and counsel you. And if you have any issues faced with the kid or with yourself, you're having trouble in adjusting. So it's basically like a counseling session. And just to see that, everything is okay. They do that for 2 years.
Just to wind up. So you go to the CARA website, you fill in your application, and then you wait, essentially.
Yes.
And at some point, you will hopefully be sent a file of 3 prospective kids to choose from. And that happens 3 times over. So 9. 9 times till so. Okay, so then one last question I have. Say you're really like way up high in their list and you're at number 1 and there are a ton of kids who fit your criteria and you're sent file number 1 of 3 profiles. You don't like any, file number 2, you don't like any, file number 3, you don't like any. And all of this happens within the first 1 year. What happens after that?
No, so once you reject all the 3, then your number goes down.
Okay.
If you go 1, you go back to like 100 or 200 or wherever. You have to start from the beginning all over again.
Even if that happens within that 3-year period.
Yes.
So your file is rejected.
Yes. Actually, with adoption, the problem is even the laws they kind of a little discriminatory against a few sects of the society. Like we discussed already about transgenders and same-sex couples who are not allowed. So we have a long way to go with regards to civil rights for the LGBTQ plus community. So that's we can discuss about it for another 45 minutes. So we do have a lot of laws in place, but implementation of the laws and the local grassroots authorities, their reaction and their mentality also matters, right? So that also affects, especially in adoption cases too. We have a long way to go.
Absolutely. And I think of heterosexual couples who want to adopt, and I imagine more than the law in the process, for a lot of them, the bigger challenge would be convincing the families.
Yes, that's huge in India. Like you can convince yourself, but by the time you tell your parents, how we need that bloodline, hamara khoon ka whatever hona chahiye type of a mentality. So that's going to take a while for that to go away.
But I think, there's always something so comforting and encouraging and reassuring when you have the right information, when you know that there are at least certain laws that are in your favor and you can keep those laws, you have those rights. Just to know it is so empowering, So, so great. Thank you so much for doing that.
It was lovely talking to you. And I kind of like discussing this topic because I never got a chance to speak about everything regarding this. Like, I just get those 30 seconds or 1, 2 minutes of time. So it's nice to actually discuss this. And I hope a lot of people get to watch this, and I hope it helps them. So,
Yeah, I hope so too.
thank you so much, Prachi. It was lovely talking to you.
Likewise.